Most travel advisors think about photos as decoration. Travel is visual, so you need visuals. So you find some nice images, put them on the site, and the photo decision is done. But photos are doing a lot more than filling space. They're communicating what kind of trips you book, what kind of clients you work with, what level of experience you offer, and whether the site feels real or generic. All of that is happening through the images, often before anyone reads a single word of copy. And it's happening before the words. It sets the context for everything that comes after. If the photos feel generic, that feeling follows the visitor through the rest of the site. Copy that would be persuasive in a different context lands a little flat because something already felt off. So when we're talking about which photos to use, we're really talking about what first impression you're creating before you get to say anything. Today, I want to introduce something I call the 5-site test. It's a single question you can apply to any photo before it goes on your website, or to photos that are already there. The question is, could this image or one that feels exactly like it appear on 5 other travel sites? If the answer is yes, the photo is working against you, not because it looks bad, but because it's communicating something you probably don't want to communicate. That your site was assembled from the same free library everyone else uses, which makes you feel interchangeable with everyone using it. Once you have the test, you can run it on anything, and most advisor sites fail it more often than they expect. I'm Justin Hinkle. This is the Travel Advisor Website Show. Hit subscribe. I want to describe an experience that I think most people in the travel advisor space have had, even if they've never named it. You're looking at a travel advisor's website. The design is fine. Actually, maybe it's pretty nice. Clean layout, good colors, the text is readable, the logo looks professional, and then you look at the photos and something shifts. There's the aerial shot of a pristine tropical beach, perfect teal water, shot from directly above, no people. There's the couple at golden hour, silhouetted on a cliff somewhere, holding hands, slightly out of focus. There's the airplane wing out the window at sunrise, clouds below, everything orange and pink. And you've seen these photos before, not on this site specifically, but these images. They feel like every travel thing you've ever looked at online, from resort websites to airline ads to travel magazine covers to the homepage of every other advisor you've looked at this week. They're beautiful in a technically correct way, and somehow they're making the site feel less real, not more. That's the 5-site test failure, and it's one of the most common things undermining travel advisor websites. Not because the photos are bad, but because they're photos that could live on anyone's site, which makes the site feel like it belongs to anyone. And a site that belongs to anyone isn't building the kind of trust that gets someone to reach out. What is the 5-site test actually catching? Well, it catches a specific kind of image problem, interchangeability. Photos that are technically fine, but could be lifted from your site and dropped onto a competitor's without anyone noticing a difference. What makes an image fail isn't quality. Some of the most overused travel photos are beautifully shot. What makes them fail is ubiquity, the quality of having been used so many times in travel marketing that they've become visual background noise, something people scroll past without registering it as meaningful. And the problem with an image that doesn't register is that it's not just neutral, it's actively telling visitors something, that this site is like every other travel site, that whoever runs it made the same default choices everyone makes, that there's nothing here that requires a second look. You're not getting credit for having a nice image, you're getting dinged for being generic. The images that come up most often when I walk through this with advisors are pretty predictable. The silhouetted couple at golden hour, on a cliff, on a beach, on a boat, holding hands or walking toward the water. It's been in so many travel ads, hotel websites, and honeymoon planning guides that it no longer communicates romance travel specialist. It communicates travel website, and that's all. Same with the aerial beach shot. Perfect teal water, no people, shot from above. Every beach resort in the world has this photo. It's technically stunning, and it says nothing specific about you or what you do. The airplane wing at sunrise is another one. Window seat, wing visible, clouds below, golden light. It reads as travel at the most generic level. The passport and boarding pass flat lay, a stack of travel documents arranged on a wooden surface or marble counter, same problem. It's become the visual shorthand for travel content rather than anything that connects to a specific advisor doing specific work. The test is worth applying to all of those, and honestly to any image that gives you a vague sense of I've seen something like this before, because that vague sense is real, and your visitors are having it too. Here's the flip side, which is where this gets more useful than just a filter for removing things. Photos that pass the 5 site test are specific. They come from somewhere real. They show something particular. They carry information that a generic image can't. Personal travel photography is the clearest example. A photo you took on a ship you inspected, at a property you visited on a fam trip, at a destination you've been to enough times to know well, that image has specificity that stock photography fundamentally can't replicate. Not because it's technically better, because it comes from somewhere actual, taken by a real person who was there. I've worked with advisors who have years of travel photos on their phones and laptops and have never thought to put them on their website. The assumption is usually that they aren't professional enough, that a website needs polished imagery to look credible. But when we go through those photos and find the ones that have something real in them, a genuine view from a ship cabin, a shore excursion where you can see the actual landscape, a dining room at a resort that looks like a specific place rather than a generic hospitality space, those images change the feel of the whole site. They pass the 5 site test immediately because no other advisor has them. What you're looking for in personal photos isn't technical perfection, it's specificity. Does this image show something real, in particular about a place or experience? Would this exact photo appear on another travel advisor site? If the answers are yes and no, it belongs on yours. I want to address something that comes up almost every time I talk to advisors about their own photography because it's worth being direct about. The assumption is that personal travel photos taken on a phone, not professionally lit, not perfectly composed, aren't the right quality for a professional website, that you need polished stock or supplier imagery to look credible. And I understand that instinct because when you put a phone photo next to a professionally shot supplier image, the supplier photo is technically better. But technically better isn't the same as more effective. A photo that's slightly imperfect but clearly taken by a real person who was really somewhere does something a polished stock image can't. It's proof. It's visual evidence of presence. And that evidence that you actually went to these places, sailed on these ships, stayed at these properties, is more credible than having a perfect image that could have come from anywhere. I've seen a photo of a view through a cabin portal at the ocean, slightly underexposed, not perfectly framed, do more trust building on an advisor site than a beautiful supplier image of the same ship. Because one of them says, this is what the ship looks like in promotional photography, and the other one says, I was on this ship and took this photo from my cabin. People feel that difference. That said, there's a basic quality threshold worth maintaining. The photo should be reasonably in focus. The lighting shouldn't be so poor it's hard to see what's in the frame. Cropping out distracting elements at the edges helps. Running it through a basic editing app to adjust brightness if it needs it. That's all. You don't need to hire a photographer. You just need to make sure the personal photos on your site clear a basic bar before they go up. Supplier photography is worth thinking about, specifically because advisors have real access to it and it's a real, legitimate resource. Cruise lines, resorts, tour operators, most of them have media libraries with high quality professional photography available to advisors for marketing use. A lot of that photography is genuinely good. It's professionally shot, it shows specific properties and ships accurately. It's not the generic sunset couple. The catch is that every other advisor working with those same suppliers has access to the same photos. A cruise line media library image might be specific to a particular ship and a particular port, which is more specific than a generic beach shot. But if 100 advisors are using the same image, it starts to drift toward failing the 5 site test. Visitors who've been researching travel and looking at multiple advisor sites will start recognizing the same photos in different places. The way to use supplier photography well is to mix it in with personal imagery rather than relying on it entirely. The supplier photo shows the ship accurately, your photo on the ship shows that you've been there. Those two things together are more powerful than either one alone. The supplier image provides professional quality, the personal image provides proof. Neither one replaces the other. There's something specific that personal photography does for a travel advisor that the 5 site test helps isolate, and it's worth naming directly. When someone is considering working with you to plan a trip, one of the things that they're quietly evaluating is whether you actually know what you're recommending. Not whether you've been trained or certified, whether you've personally experienced the things you're about to suggest. There's a real difference in the trust someone places in my advisor has studied this ship versus my advisor has been on this ship and took these photos. Photos of you at a destination or from a ship inspection or at a resort you visited on a fam trip, those are proof of presence, not a credential listed on a page. Visual evidence that you were there. And because it's visual and specific, it lands differently than a paragraph explaining your experience. Advisors who have photos from fam trips and ship inspections sitting in folders on their computer and have never used them anywhere, those photos are doing nothing. On a website, in the right context, they're doing real trust building work. A photo of you on a pool deck of a ship you recommend, or a restaurant at a resort you know well, that's worth more than several paragraphs explaining that you know what you're talking about. And it'll pass the 5 site test every time because those photos are yours. Now let's talk about the second part of the test. Even photos that pass the ubiquity question, not generic, not overused, can be wrong for your site if they don't connect to what you actually specialize in. Brand alignment is basically asking, do these photos look like the trips I actually book? And I think for travel advisors, this is one of the clearest gaps I see. A cruise specialist whose homepage is full of beach resort imagery, those photos might be real and specific, but they're communicating beach vacations, not cruises. Someone who specializes in luxury travel using mid range hotel imagery is sending a mixed signal that visitors feel even when they can't name it. A family travel advisor with photos that look like couples retreats is reaching the wrong person. So the 5 site test has 2 parts. The first is ubiquity. Could this image live on 5 other travel sites? The second is alignment. Even if this image passes the first test, does it connect to the specialty and the type of client you're actually trying to reach? Both have to be true for a photo to be earning its place. A specific image that's misaligned with your specialty is better than a generic image, but it's still not right. The one image on your site that most directly passes or fails both dimensions of the test is the photo of you. It's a different kind of 5 site test. It's not about generic stock categories, it's about whether the photo communicates something real about who you are and what you do, or whether it reads as a generic professional headshot that could belong to anyone in any service business. Some of the most effective advisor photos I've seen are taken in a travel context, on the deck of a ship, at a destination they specialize in, somewhere that connects the photo of them to the work they do. That kind of photo passes both parts of the test. It's specific to that person and it's aligned with their specialty. It does double duty. A standard headshot in front of a neutral background isn't wrong, but it's missing an opportunity. And current matters here. If the photo was taken a while back and it doesn't quite look like you anymore, there's a small but real moment of adjustment when someone gets on a video call with you for the first time. Not a deal breaker, but a small friction point that a current photo removes. One thing the 5 site test doesn't fully capture on its own is what happens when you look at all the photos together. Individual photos pass or fail the test one at a time, but the collection of photos on a site has a cumulative emotional effect that operates independently of any single image. When someone lands on your homepage and takes in the photos before they read anything, what do those photos make them feel? Inspired? Specific? Like they found someone who does the kind of travel they're thinking about? Or vaguely like they've seen this all before? A site where individual photos pass a test but don't connect to each other, different types of travel, different aesthetics, different emotional registers, the cumulative effect is kind of nothing. It's just images. There's no point of view behind the selection. What you're aiming for is a collection that has a coherence to it. Like the photos came from the same world, the same kind of travel, the same sensibility. A luxury cruise specialist photo should feel elevated and specific to ship travel. A family adventure specialist photos should have energy and realness and families in them. The collection should tell a visitor something about what it's like to work with you and what kind of travel you're going to help them plan. Not through a literal narrative, but through the accumulated feeling of seeing images that all belong together. Here's how I'd approach this practically. Go through every image on your site: homepage, about page, specialty pages, any blog content that has photos. For each one, ask the ubiquity question. Could this image or one that feels exactly like it appear on 5 other travel sites? Flag anything where the answer is probably yes. Then ask the alignment question on what's left. Does this photo connect to the specialty and the client I'm actually trying to reach? Is it earning its place or is it just filling space? What you'll probably find is that you have less personal photography on the site than you'd want and more stock or supplier imagery than you realized. If that's the case, the near-term fix is going through your own travel photos, your phone, your laptop, folders from past trips, fam experiences, and finding the ones that are specific enough to use. There are usually more of them than advisors expect. And the longer-term fix is just getting intentional about documenting your own travel. Every fam trip, every ship inspection, every personal vacation, take photos with the website in mind. Not just the grand scenic shots, but the details. The view from a specific cabin category, the pool at a property you'd recommend, the menu at a restaurant worth mentioning, a photo of you somewhere relevant. Those accumulate. Over a few years of doing this deliberately, most advisors end up with a real personal library, imagery that's completely theirs that no other advisor has. That will pass the 5-site test every time. That's a real asset. And it's one of those things where starting earlier is almost always better. The 5-site test is a filter, not a formula. It won't tell you exactly which photos belong on your site, but it'll tell you pretty quickly which ones are working against the impression you're trying to make. And that's usually the more useful thing to know first. The question is simple enough to apply to anything. Could this image live on 5 other travel sites? If yes, it shouldn't live on yours. There's a lot more in this direction if you want to keep going. Stick around. I'm Justin Hinkle. This is the Travel Advisor website show. Hit subscribe.